host for this series on developer stuff for we are working on building a Node.js trivia game through these series of streams, learning some new things, along with hopefully you're going to learn some stuff too along the way. So I've been a Node.js developer for many years now. Previously did a lot of .NET, C#, SQL Server, all that kind of stuff. These days, I'm pretty much focused on web technologies, web-based JavaScript and Node.js, building web apps, building desktop apps with Electron, and just having lots of fun doing those kinds of technologies. And through this series of streams, I've been working on building a Node.js based trivia game. It'll be real time. Folks can join the game, similar to some of the online games you may have seen or played in the past, where folks can join and everything happens kind of in real time. Everybody can play together and see each other's results and so forth. And so we're using Node.js and JavaScript. We're going to use Socket.io to build the real-time communications between the different clients and the server. And we're using Vue for the front end and Tailwind CSS. For Node.js, right now we're currently using Fastify as our server framework. It's not been all roses. There's been a few snags along the way with some of the plugins and things, which is, I don't know, it's not completely unexpected because technology changes so quickly, and Fastify was, kind of designed to be an API server, may not be like a general purpose back end web server like maybe Express or Happy or one of the other frameworks. So still running into some things along the way. If you're interested in following along with the project and the source code, you want to take a look at what's been created so far, you can go to my GitHub repository. It's on github.com/reverendgeek/ahot-trivia-game. And AHOT is all hands on tech. The series of streams brought to you by Pluralsight and your host, David Neal. We've got other folks on the team here at Pluralsight who are doing streams. Jeremy Morgan's also working on his set of streams for learning another gaming framework for building like very graphics based games. Trying to remember the name of that plugin. And Hogwarts Emo Dragon, thank you for rejoining on the stream. Glad to see that you're back. It's always great to see that folks are return from week after week. I've been doing these streams on a weekly basis most weeks. I missed last week because of travel, but trying to do these at least once a week. Maybe going forward, I'll experiment with adding another day or two just to see if folks are interested in getting together more than just once a week. If you have any suggestions or ideas or comments or anything, any questions along the way right now or somewhere down with it in the stream, you see me doing something you don't quite understand, have any questions about that, pop those in the comments wherever you are, and I can see those here in my dashboard. So regardless of being on LinkedIn or Twitch or YouTube or uh, Facebook, I can see those comments. So please drop them in. Georgie asks, what is a good coding language to start learning for beginners? Boy, that's that's a loaded question because you ask a dozen, 100 developers, you may get 100 different answers. And it usually has to do with uh, folks, preference, right? What languages do you feel like, you're most proficient in? So, in my opinion, and my opinion is going to differ from other folks, I think that JavaScript is one of the best languages that you can learn as a beginner or any developer, regardless of skill. You may have other skills. And the reason is JavaScript is such a valuable skill to have. It is everywhere. Every browser, there's millions of devices around the world, if not billions, that can run JavaScript code, and you can build practically anything you can imagine. You can build it with JavaScript. Now, there are other languages, maybe other languages that are more, I don't know, friendly, that lend themselves to being easier to learn in the short term, and you can learn good principles there, and you can learn good concepts. But I believe in learning a language that's going to last you and provide you a good, be a good skill to have. I also believe, C Sharp, Java, Python is very popular. And I know there are a lot of folks who believe that Python is a great language to start with. There's I think that the something like C Sharp or Java that is a compiled language does add more safety in the fact that as you're coding, uh, you're compiling your code, and you are alerted right away if you've made any syntax mistakes or you know any kind of coding or syntax issues come up. With languages like JavaScript and Python and others that are what's are considered dynamic languages, there's a lot more forgiveness. So there's pros and cons to that. There's it's nice having a dynamic language like JavaScript or Python because it makes it's more forgiving and makes it kind of easier and more friendly to to code in. At the same time, you may run into issues that aren't obvious because of syntax issues that the JavaScript or Python language does not alert you to. Teresa asks, "Hey, I'm curious. I know probably signed up for this, but what is your chat about?" Well, this is a Node. This is a live stream, and we are building a Node.js based application for it's a trivia game, and it's a fun problem to solve because it requires real time communications, and we're using technologies like Node.js, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We're using Vue as the front end framework. We're using Socket.io for real time communications. So there's a lot of interesting technologies. And again, if you want to check out the source code for the project, the link is there on your screen. And yeah, so again, learning a new language, there's lots and lots of options available. One thing I will point out, Java and JavaScript are not the same thing. A lot of folks get that confused. They share a similar name, but the language itself is and platforms are completely different. They're not interchangeable. So be aware of that. So if you run into stuff online that's about JavaScript versus Java, those are two different things. Hope that gives you some ideas, gives you some direction. Thanks for the question, Georgie. Yeah, while we're on the subject, here's another question that comes in. Hi, I'm an upcoming developer. Can you give me some ideas to improve my skills? Well, everybody's learning styles are different. Some people prefer to watch videos. You could pick up some ideas from folks like me who are streaming, or people who are creating content for YouTube or online courses like what Pluralsight has to offer. Other folks, are more comfortable following along with books or online tutorials. It depends on, what kind of format you prefer. Me personally, I like anything that's kind of guided, especially when I'm learning something new, where someone, kind of gives you some step-by-step instructions to start with. And then for me, what I find works well for me to learn something new is to set a goal. And in the case of like this is a game that we're building, and it may seem like, well, how is that useful? I'm not probably going to be building games for my future employer or for my current employer. However, building something interesting like a game not only gives you some problems to solve, it's fun because it's a fun challenge. The things that you learn along the way in doing something like this kind of project is like you can take that knowledge and those skills and apply it to building other types of applications. So I like to set a goal of like, I'm going to build this type of an app, and I'm only going to use this new technology that I want to learn. And at first I may think, well, I could do this so quickly, or I could do this much easier if I use these technologies that I already know, right? Sure, if you have those skills. But if you're trying to learn something new, force yourself to solve a problem using that new technology, and that will make you go and learn how to accomplish things. You might not always get it right. Okay. We all make mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. That's part of the process of learning. Let's see. Yeah, there's lots and lots of really great learning platforms. I'm kind of biased because I work for Pluralsight and we do online courses and all that kind of stuff. But there are lots and lots of resources out there. I used to do write tutorials for other companies, and yeah, there's just lots of really great content out there if you look. Let's see. I'm going to switch over to my desktop so we can start to look at some code. I've got the project, as I mentioned, it's in my GitHub repository /Reverent Geek. Right now I've got the README file up on the screen, and there are some instructions in this README. If you want to run this locally on your machine, repository, get that onto your computer, and you need to have Node.js installed. I prefer using NVM. NVM is Node Version Manager. If you are using Mac or Linux, you can install it directly. If you are on Windows, I highly recommend that you use the, I think they call it the Windows subsystem for Linux, and that'll give you access to all the same kind of command line tools and things that folks have come to enjoy having access to when building Node.js and other similar libraries. So you can install NVM under that Linux subsystem for Windows, and you'll clone after you have Node.js installed. Have the source code repository, and you can run npm install. npm is part of Node. It's the package manager, and that's going to install all the dependencies for the application. You are so welcome. And again, if you have any questions over the next hour or 45 minutes that we're together, please post them. And yeah, and Jeremy also suggests I would highly recommend doing Node stuff in Windows subsystem for Linux and Windows. It's far more stable and doesn't take too long to set up. Thanks, Jeremy. Okay, so we've got the README for the project, and I'm going to switch over to my terminal here. I'm in the repository, and just to give you an idea of NVM, you can see what versions of Node.js you have installed. I like to, about once a week or so, see if there are any new versions of Node. And look, there's been a patch made. So I'm currently at 18.14.1. There is an 18.14.2 available. I think that's some security related stuff that just came out. So I'm going to install that so you can see what that looks like. So NVM install 18 is going to install the very latest version of version 18. And then if I run npm-v, it shows me that I have Node npm 9.5. Node-v shows me the current version of Node that I have installed. And if I run npm outdated, this gives me a list of any dependencies in the project that have been updated. And these are all minor or patch versions. So if I really want to, I can say npm update, and it'll download those dependencies and update the project. So that's just some housekeeping stuff that I do, again, about once a week, which, so you can see it and learn a little bit about that too. Is kind of the process of building stuff with Node. And I like to just, try to keep my projects up to date as possible. Now, if for example, Fastify Static, which is a plugin for Fastify, if it had gone from version 6 to version 7, that would be a different kind of upgrade where it's potentially breaking, could have a breaking change in it. Usually not, but it's possible. And so that may require further investigation to see exactly what changed before updating the project with that later version. All right. And where we have gotten so far, if I run npm run dev, which is the developer task that's defined in this file, package.json. We have a dev script which loads NodeMon, which is a node process launcher monitoring service. It's going to watch my source and public folders to see if there are any changes to those files. And if there are, it's going to automatically restart and relaunch my Node.js application. That way I don't have to keep restarting the service every time I make a change to the project. It's a very convenient thing to have when you're building Node applications. Otherwise, I would run npm start to launch the application. So the dev also runs our build, which is right now, the only thing that's in our build is the Tailwind process to compile the CSS file for the game, for the front end. So when I launch the application, it's listening on port 8080 on my local machine. If I pull that up in the browser, it's not fancy yet. We haven't gotten to that point yet of creating like some good graphics. Need to do that soon, so it's more visually appealing. But we do have Tailwind installed. We have Vue installed. I can click on Start a Game, enter my gamer tag or name or whatever it is I want to use to play the game, and click Next. And it is communicating over WebSockets from the client to the server to register me as a player for the game. And so this is where we got to on the last stream. It says, thanks for joining, waiting for other players to join. So we've got some logic to take care of as far as like on the server side, allowing more players to join, and at some point deciding either manually or automatically there are enough players to start the game. And so, you know, this is a competition style trivia game. So in the source code, there's a source folder, and we've got mostly our server side code. This is except for the CSS files, which are our Tailwind and are getting built and published to this public folder up here. Everything that's in the public folder is for the front end, the client, and everything that's in the source folder is for the server. So we've got one view that's this HTML file, and this gets served with an empty div tag. And this is where our view front end gets loaded into this this app dev tag. Index.js is our server side. You know, this is where the application begins. So all the kind of bootstrap steps for starting this Fastify service. There's the Fastify, there's plugins like Fastify Socket IO, Fastify Static, and we are pulling in our environment variables we have defined, and we're creating a game server, registering all our plugins, declaring any routes that we have, which are like slash home, our home page, or slash if we were to do like APIs or anything like that. But we're using sockets for everything that we need. And then we run the server. We've got a start function, and final step is we start it. Now, I know I'm glossed over a lot of stuff. We've covered, all of this in other streams. So I'm just giving you an idea of how this works. I've got a game server, which has this start function, and that's the function that it exports. And in this start function, we've got sockets. So when a client connects and it's listening for a join game right now, there will be other events that we're listening for, such as when a player answers a question and so forth. So we'll have more of these socket on channel, if you will, names. And that's about it for now. We have one function that is sending the current state to the client, and that is this emit. We have some game states defined: home, join, waiting, countdown, active, game over. This we may refactor those in the future, but for now we do have one player joining the game, and we're logging that to the console. We're assigning a player ID, and we are acknowledging that we've got this new player by sending that data back to the client. That's what this callback function is for. And so we're just storing currently, to make this work, we're storing all this in memory. So we don't have a database or, caching anything, or we're not persisting any of this data in any way. That's something that we will need to do down the road, just for either scalability or for reliability. We may want to use something like a database or some type of persistence layer on the server to keep track of all the games that are going on and all the players in those games and so forth, so that if a server crashes or becomes unavailable, or if we need to add more servers, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's an interesting problem to solve that we may want to cover in a future stream. So for now, I've just got a comment here. It says to set the number of players. That's something we need to be able to configure at maybe at runtime. But for now, we're just going to hard code into the game if the number of players that have joined is equal to or greater than 4, which shouldn't ever happen. Shouldn't be greater than 4. So once the 4th player has joined the game, then we need to start the game. And to start the game, we're going to basically send a message or update the state and send a message to all the clients that are connected that the game is starting. So, let's see. Let me check my notes. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is create a new function up here called start game. And in here, we're going to first update the current state. So state update. So state equals states dot. I think we're going to, if we're going to implement a countdown. Now let's just say countdown for now. And then we're going to send that state. So let's say just for the purpose of debugging, let's start the game after two people have joined, or two players have joined. We're going to call start game, which is going to update the current state on the server to countdown and send that to the client. So as soon as I save that file, as I mentioned before, since we're using NodeMon, it detected that file changed and it restarted my server. So now if I go back to my client here and refresh, it's already back to that. Like I didn't refresh the screen. It automatically sent that state to the client to say, it's in the home state again. So start a game. I'm going to say player one. Next. Thanks for joining. So this one player one, let me fix that. That was something we were testing at the end of the day last week. So one. Okay. Yeah. So one player one is just to know that it was working. We put the ID in the template. So thanks for joining player one, waiting for other players to join. Let's save that. And let's go back to the client here, start a game, player one. Well, I thought that's interesting. I think I just started the game because it registered two people have joined the game. So my logic right now isn't great. So it's eventually we need to figure out how to do like a cookie-based session or some type of persistence for the client so that it knows from one refresh to the next that it's the same person logged into the game and associates them with their original ID. So at some point we gotta solve that. Let me just restart the whole thing and refresh this here. Okay. So player one. Okay, now the message looks correct. Thanks for joining player one, waiting for other players to join. I'm going to open up another tab here and go to localhost, start a new game, and we'll say player two, next. And now we get an empty screen. So the reason we got an empty screen is we don't have anything set up for the client yet to display that a game has started. So we've got messages in here. Receive join game from player 2. There's also somewhere up here. Yeah, received join game from player 1. If you can see that on your screen, the contrast is not great. So that logic is working. Player 1, we got 2 players join the game, and the server sent the message to the client to say the current state is now countdown. So the idea is we're going to have like a countdown timer that is telling the players that they've got, like the game is starting in 3 seconds, like 3, 2, 1. And then the first trivia question is going to come up on the screen and they can start to answer those, right? So for now, we have on the client, we have a join component that is where you enter your player name. We have a home component, whereas that's initial screen, and we have a waiting. We've joined the game, we're waiting for the game to start. So our client.js in this public folder is what pulls in all of those components, those view components, and registers those and displays the specific or the correct component based on the current state of the game. So at this point, in order to show the countdown, we need a countdown component so that to display to the player. In the components, let's create a new file called countdown.js. We'll just grab one of these other components code and paste that in here. And I think we don't need to emit anything. We just need a template to display the current countdown. So maybe I should have copied one of the other components. But for now, let's say game starting in, and assume that our property is called countdown. Let's look at one of the other components. We've got, yeah. So this is the example I wanted. A component that takes in properties or a value. So paste that in. And in this case, let's say get ready, player name. Text. Trying to remember the properties. Let's see, center, content center, maybe. I'm still no Tailwind expert. I haven't memorized all the classes and how to do all the formatting. Hopefully this is the correct align content center. I don't know. I want to center the text on the page, right? May or may not be the correct class for that. But I need to take in another property, and that is the current countdown. Because I'm gonna allow what I want to do is the server will be the authority on what the current countdown is. So the server will be emitting to the clients, the 3, 2, 1, 0, and then the game will start. That way, you know, there's some things that from on the client perspective, you don't want someone to be able to tamper with, right? It's that kind of concept. We're not too concerned about it right now. We're just building a friendly game. But those kinds of ideas that you might want to think through is like, well, you don't want someone to be able to hack the game, right? So you want to keep some of that logic on the server where it's protected. That includes the, maybe the countdown. So we have our countdown component. We need to go to the client.js, import countdown, add it to our list of components in the create app. And now down here, let's do the countdown and state that we're looking for is also called countdown, all lowercase. We got a player name, an ID, and we also need to set the property countdown equal to countdown. So see the game server, right now, all it's emitting to the client is the state. But we need to send more data than that in some cases. There's more to the state than just the name of the state. There could be like the countdown or a particular question or set of questions to send to the client. So let's say current countdown oh well, let's just call it countdown. Use the same thing everywhere. Current. So when we start the game, let's set the countdown to 3. And we're going to current state is an object that includes the state, which is the name of the current state, and the current countdown. And there may be other things that we add to the current state. We could send down a list of the players so that the client knows is aware of the other players that have joined the game. So it gets like it can display a list of those other players. Eventually, players will include things like their scores or their current scores, so that either the leaderboard screen or each client can see maybe in the corner, who's in the lead or what the scores of the other players are, so that they can see where they're ranking. There's lots of things we may do. So the current state, yeah, we should include the current players. And so instead of just sending the name of the state, we're going to send this object called current state. Right? Xavier asked the question, if you're getting home from the state, wouldn't the variable name be better as home? Well, the initial state is going to be home, but the state will change over time. So we'll just continue to call it state if that's uh, the question that you're asking. Because as the game runs, the state will change from home to active to game over, scoring. There could be a number of things. So on the client, when we receive the state, this is no longer just the state. There's other things that we included. So we could either say there's two things we could do, or two possibilities. We could say current state, just like we had on the server, and this becomes current state dot state and current state dot players, current state dot countdown, all those properties that are on that object. Or we could use destructuring in JavaScript to go ahead and break up that object into individual variables that are assigned to the properties of that object. And that's what we'll do. We'll say state, players, countdown, and this will evolve over time. We'll probably include more properties on that object. So we'll log the state, players, and the countdown. And let's also include in our data let's just default the countdown to 0 and default the players to an empty array. And so now we can say this dot players equals players, this dot countdown equals countdown. And let's first see if this is working. Go to our client here and refresh, start a new game, player 1, next. Let's refresh this one, start a new game, player 2, next. And we say, get ready, player 2, game starting in, and our our text is missing. So what happened to our text? let's first inspect the page to see if it's there. So there's the tag where the countdown is supposed to be appearing. Right now it should be showing 3, and it's not working. Over here, same thing. Get ready, player 1, game starting in player 2. So some things are looking correct. This is not. The countdown is not. So maybe we mistyped. Oh, that's because I didn't actually set countdown equal to countdown, which this is the property on the component. This is the value that is coming from data for this component. All right, let's save that. We're already back to start a new game. So let's say player 2 again. Thanks for joining. Waiting for other players to join. Start this one. Player 1, test. I think I still have, oh, there it is. So I refresh the page. I'm now getting 3. It's not centered like I thought. I need to figure out what the correct class is to do that. But at least we're getting, big text. It should be like 3, 2, 1, and then the game starts. So let's just, for now, naively do a countdown. So in the game server, we start the game. We set the countdown to 3. Let's create a new function here called start countdown. And for now, this is just a set timeout. That is going to decrement the current countdown if countdown is equal to 0. Then we set the current state to, right now we're calling it active, like the game is active. So let's just use that for now. And then send state, which is going to broadcast the current state, including the countdown value, to all the clients. And this is going to be after 1,000 milliseconds. And again, this is all very naive in the approach to doing this countdown timer. Eventually, we'll need to figure out a much more robust way of doing the countdown. And let's see. We need to do this recursively until the value reaches 0. So if after we send the state, if the countdown is greater than 0, let's just call the same function again. So now start countdown might not be the correct name of the function. So let's do the countdown. So here, after we send the countdown state, let's call do the countdown. And start a new game, player 1. Player 2. Oh, this one worked, but the other one did not. I need to refresh this page. Let's try that one more time. Let's restart the server, start a new game, player 1, start a new game, player 2, 3, 2, 1, 0. Not quite. Oh, I didn't state equals state dot active. I was wondering, well, after it hit 0, it should have disappeared because we're changing states again, but I didn't actually set the state. So let's run that one more time. Here is player 2. And here is player 1. 3, 2, 1, boom. That's to be expected. We don't see anything because we just updated to a state that doesn't yet exist on the client. And that is the game itself. So we're making progress. You know, we're slowly but surely we're getting the game logic in here. We're gonna make it beautiful one of these days. Add some cool graphics and get the UI looking like it should. And we've got some naive approaches, like I said, to the countdown. This is definitely going to evolve into a more sophisticated, accurate way of doing countdowns. But this is good progress. The next step will be like, hey, we've got a pool of trivia questions. Let's randomize those when the game starts and send that list to the client for them to answer those trivia questions. So all of it's coming together. It's just going to take us some more time to get there. We're almost at time. Does anyone that's still on the stream have any questions about something we've covered today? And while I'm waiting to see if anyone has questions, I'm going to go over here to the command line and commit the latest code to the repository. I'm going to update the README. So we've got some amount of, this functioning. It's definitely an MVP at this point, or like I said, a naive approach to some of these, but we'll get there eventually. Git add and push that. Again, if you're interested in looking at the source code for the entire project, you can find that on my GitHub repository at github.com/reverentgeek/ahot-trivia game. I'm going to wait just another minute or two to see if any other questions come in. I really do appreciate y'all sticking with me today. And as we continue to build this game in Node.js, using JavaScript and WebSockets and Vue and Tailwind, there's still so much more to cover. Lots of cool things to learn. I hope that you will continue to come back and join me as we walk through building this game together. Thank you so much for joining today. If there are any questions that come up after this stream that or if you're watching a recording of this stream and you want to contact me, you can find me anywhere on social media by searching for Reverent Geek. My website, reverentgeek.com. I'm on GitHub under Reverent Geek, and Instagram, Twitter, Mastodon, all those fun places. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. My job is to help you be more awesome. And learning technology is what I like to do. So if anything comes up that you want to ask me, you can find me in those places. I wish that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again. Hope to see you again on the next All Hands on Tech. Go forth and oil your mighty beard. I don't know. I'm not into beard products all that much. I don't like my beard to be shiny and calling that much attention to itself. Beard oil is all right though. See you again on the next stream. Thank you all. Thanks. See you next time.